I think that's something we can all relate to, right? Maybe it's a physical challenge, maybe it's work, family, relationships. There's always a challenge. There's always an opponent. Nobody's life is perfect. And despite the obstacles and the challenges I had to wrestle in my life, there was a word that really my mom taught me at a super young age, really from day one. She started sharing it with me. It was that word unstoppable. And you heard from my mom on that video. My mom and I were very close. I love my mom very much. I'm blessed. I couldn't have asked for a better mom, because when she had me, she was pretty young. She was 16 years old. And she had no idea that I was going to be born missing my leg. My biological father, he wasn't in the picture. So she was a single parent for a while. So the doctors weren't expecting me to be born this way. So the day I was born, she told me that they actually rushed me out of the operating room without letting her see me. She wasn't allowed to hold me, and no one would tell her anything. So she said she was in this daze. She's asking questions, where's my son? No one would answer her. But she told me she would never forget the look in their eyes, in the nurse's eyes in that room. She could tell that something was wrong. They're panicking. And she told me that finally the head doctor came back in the room. He said, your son's going to be okay, but there was a problem. He was born missing his right leg. They said, that's all we can tell you for now. He's going to be okay, but he was born missing his right leg. And as a kid, you can imagine, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why I was born this way. Obviously, I knew I was different than everybody else. And it was very apparent when I would leave the house, because my family never made it a big deal. Going to the grocery store, though, adults would stare at me as I would walk down the aisle with my family, just hanging out near the grocery store cart. I dreaded going to school. The first day for me was hard every single year. I just remember stepping on campus. All the kids would be looking at me, whispering as I walked by. Someone would laugh at me. And there were a lot of days I'd go home just crying. Just really just broken and frustrated and asking why. Why did I have to deal with this challenge? But again, I was blessed with a great mom. And my mom, she constantly would tell me the same thing. She'd tell me, you were born that way for a reason. She said, you just got to wait and see what that is. And she taught me a lot of great lessons growing up. One of the best was she showed me that I could never let this challenge become an excuse. Because obviously it was going to be a challenge. This was going to be something I would have to deal with the rest of my life. Every single day it was going to be a challenge. Every single day I would have to beat the challenge. But she showed me I couldn't let this become my excuse to say, I can't do it. It's too hard to feel sorry for myself. And so it was with her constant encouragement, her teaching me this, that I basically tried to set the bar high in everything I did. I would see what I was capable of, how high I could go. So I was always playing sports as a kid growing up, and 14 years old, I decided to try a new sport, which I didn't tell my mom about. I decided to try wrestling. So I go to this wrestling practice with my cousin, and I came home that day. I was excited. So I burst through the front door, and I'm looking for my mom. I was like, Mom, where are you? She's in the living room on the couch. And so I get in there. She turns around, and she's looking at me. I was like, Mom, I went to wrestling practice. This is the funnest thing I've ever done. I said, can you please sign me up? Can we go get my wrestling gear today? I'm talking like 100 miles a minute, right? My eyes are wide. It's like, can I wrestle? She's silent. Her eyes are all wide. She doesn't say a word. She gets up. I remember she grabbed me by my arm, and she starts walking me down the hallway. And so I'm looking at her, right? Like, Mom, can you answer my question, right? Can I wrestle? What's up? Can I do this? Get down the hallway. We get to the bathroom. And I'm looking at her. She's like, did you see your face? I'm like, what are you talking about? All right, so I face the mirror. She flips the light on. My right eye was almost swollen shut. Had a busted lip, blood all over my shirt stretched out, scratches on my neck. I'm smiling, and there's like blood on my teeth. And she's like, that doesn't look very fun to me. She's like, I don't think so. I don't think wrestling's for you. No. I couldn't explain to her what it was at that moment. But for some reason, there was just a tugging on my heart that I was supposed to wrestle. Like I was meant to do this. Like this was the reason. And the rest of the day, I was just trying to talk my mom into letting me wrestle. It's like, Mom, please, just let me try for one season. Give me 1 year to try it. Let me see how it goes. I just want to try it. And she was never one to break my spirit. She was never one to try to hold me back from a goal, to try to hold me back from trying something new, because she knew that sometimes having to experience that pain and failure, it was necessary to make me stronger. So by the end of the night, she said, all right. She said, if this was really what you want to do, if you're sure, I'll let you wrestle. She said, we can go out tomorrow morning. Whatever wrestling gear you need, I'll get it for you. And so to bed, I couldn't even sleep, right? I'm laying there. I'm excited. I'm looking at the ceiling and I'm imagining my wrestling career moving forward. All the matches I was going to win, all the times I was going to get these cool trophies, cool awards to bring back home. And I remember looking over my side at the wall, had a bookshelf. I was like, I got to clear those books off first thing tomorrow morning because I'm going to start lining up my trophies. That's where they're going to go. Right? There, put another bookshelf up, right? They're coming. Here we go. And so I have my thoughts planned out. I envisioned how it was going to go down, but it didn't happen that way. I just remember my first year, I was dealing with a couple different challenges. Number one, the lightest weight class in high school wrestling at the time was 103 pounds. And so, that's an alarm going on. So it was 103 pounds. And at 14 years old, I mentioned just having to cut weight. 14 years old, I never had to worry about watching my weight because I weighed 90.5 pounds. I was little. And I remember that season being so small, just undersized. These guys are way stronger than me. That was one challenge. Number two, I'm going through here and being so weak, it really affected my mindset. And I just remember, basically, I'm learning a whole new style of wrestling from scratch. I couldn't go online and look up one-legged wrestler because there weren't any. My coach had never coached someone missing the leg before. So we're basically just throwing me out there on a wrestling mat against these opponents, seeing what I was doing, and he would take notes. It's like, okay, you seem like you're struggling here, like you're uncomfortable here. Let's work on it. What can we do? You say, okay, you look like you're good here, like you're comfortable. Let's build on that. And so it's basically just a trial and error thing. And I lost a lot. I hated it. But what I would come to learn is, you learn more from your losses than your wins. I think it applies to life as well. Right? You learn more from your struggles than the good times. And we don't want to go through the struggles. We don't like the losses. But when you think about it, when you're winning, it's just a repetitive thing. You just kind of hit cruise control, keep doing what you're doing. There's no real need to grow. But when you're losing, when you're struggling, then you're forced to look on the inside. You're forced to really evaluate things, to plan and rebuild, to be stronger. And so those losses, it was frustrating, but I was learning through it. And I just remember finishing that first freshman year, I was last place in the city tournament. A lot of losses. I think I won like 3 times the entire season. And that final match, it was hard. I lose. I knew last place in the Mesa City tournament, I wasn't going to county. I wasn't going to state. My season was done. So I shake my opponent's hand. They raise his arm up. I go to his corner to shake his coach's hand. And I had my head down when I put my hand out. So my head's down. I shake his hand. He said, good job. For some reason, the tone of his voice made me look at him right in the eyes for a second. Like, I just remember staring at him, and I could tell just the way he was looking at me, and just by the tone of his voice, he didn't expect me to win in the first place. He felt sorry for me, and he only saw me for what I was missing, for what I couldn't do, for what was going to hold me back. He only saw me for the challenge. And it's hard to describe the feelings that were going through my mind at that moment. It was rage. It was just brokenness. It was just this sadness. All these negative things just going through me. And I remember sitting high up in the bleachers by myself the rest of that tournament, just watching my teammates place, get on the podium, get their medals. And I was broken. And I went home that night, skipped dinner. And for 2 hours, I sat on my bed. And 2 hours, I just stared at that wall, at that bookshelf. Wasn't a single trophy on it. There was nothing but dust on there. And I remember just being really in this just darkness, mentally just in this just haze and feeling sorry for myself, honestly. I was in that room just broken and asking myself, why me? Why does this have to be so hard? I'm trying like everybody else. Why can't I win like everybody else? Why isn't it working for me? And I was really contemplating quitting that night. I was really just contemplating just giving up wrestling, walking away, just saying this sport's too hard for me. But in my head, I just kept hearing my mom's voice just echo, unstoppable, unstoppable, keep going. And I'm going to share with you something special because that night I made the greatest decision of my life that night in that room. I told myself, I said, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to stop until I'm the best wrestler to ever come out of Arizona. That's my goal. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the champ. And so I'm blessed. I have a pretty cool trophy case at home now. I got some Guinness things in there, Guinness records, and this championship ring. But one of the most special to me, at 14 years old in my room, I wrote down my goal of being the best, to being the champ on this little piece of paper. And so, I'm getting older now, so I had to laminate it, and it's all taped up now. It's getting wrinkled and ripped. But every day I would look at this. Every day I would bring it to school. I'd tape it to my locker when I go to practice. I'd get home and put it on my bedroom mirror. It's like, one day I'm going to get this. This was my way of holding myself accountable, because I knew it's not going to happen overnight. Right? I knew this was going to be a long, hard road to get this, but this was my way of saying one day, one day, one step at a time. And so I was blessed with a great support system around me who would help me get this. One of them was my high school coach. And I remember going up to him. I said, "Coach, this is my goal. Can you help me?" He's like, "Absolutely." He says, "We will train all summer long, every single day, if you're up for it. We'll figure out a style to work for you. We'll do it." He says, "But I got to tell you, though," he says, "you're going to be a lot smaller than the guys you wrestle for a while." He said, "We need to make you mean enough and tough enough to handle that." Because even at the end of the season, I was still weighing 90 pounds. I was lifting as hard as I could. I was trying to bulk up, still 90 pounds. And so I was mad because, even as I got older, as I got bigger, my nickname on my team was always Urkel because I was so small. But I always told my teammates they were jealous because I looked like Denzel, and they didn't. But, so my size, it was always a problem at the beginning. I was always just too small, undersized. I didn't have the strength. So he said, "We got to make you mean enough to handle that. We got to make you tough enough to be able to go out there and scrap with bigger guys." He says, "You need to start training with Chris. Go talk to him, see if he'll train with you." So I got to tell you, he's one of my best friends. His name is Chris Freege. And at the time, he was a captain of our wrestling team. He was a state champion. He was a junior. He wrestled the 152-pound weight class. So I'm 90 pounds. He's a lot bigger than me. He was getting recruited across the country to wrestle the colleges. This stud. So I remember Coach tells me this, like, "Go talk to Chris." And I remember just going up to Chris, and in my mind, I'm thinking, this dude's not going to waste his time with me. Like, why would he? He's getting ready to wrestle in college. He's going for his second state title. I'm nothing. He's not going to waste his time. He's not going to train me. So I go up to him and I showed him what I had written down. I was like, "Chris, this is what I want. Can you help me?" Expecting him to say no, right? Expecting him to just kind of laugh me out the building. I remember he looked at me, he kind of like sized me up for a second. He's like, "If you think you're tough enough, I'm in." He says, "I'll help you out. Let's go." And every day from that point on, Chris and I would train together. And like 99% of the time, I couldn't score a single point on him. I mean, we would throw me around this wrestling room. Our wrestling room had a wall that separated our room from the basketball court, and there was pads on the wall. If you walked by during practice at a certain time, you could hear thuds. That was me getting thrown against the wall. Chris doesn't touch me now because I could take him. But back then, every day he'd beat on me. And it's funny because, we do a wrestling camp together pretty much every summer before COVID happened. And this last summer, 2 years ago, we were teaching one and we were on break. I remember Chris and I were sitting there and I was like, "Chris, let's go wrestle a match for old time's sake. See who wins." He's like, "Man," he's like, "I would, but my knee's a little sore today, and I don't want to." I was like, "Dude, you got 2 knees. I don't feel sorry for you. Let's go figure it out." But every day, Chris would just beat on me. I mean, I would just get so frustrated. There'd be times we were live wrestling. I'm just nothing's working for me. I'm not scoring any points. I'm literally wiping tears out of my eyes as I'm still wrestling with him. And he's just coming at me. But I learned that I needed to be willing to grind. That was the grind for me. Just push. Even though I didn't see the results that I wanted, even though I didn't get the wins like I wanted, I wasn't scoring the points like I expected to. I had to still put in that work. And that was our phrase on our wrestling team. You grind now, you shine later. The grind, it's the struggle. It's the hard work. It's the setbacks. It's not fun. It's not pleasant, but that's what it takes. So he showed me I had to grind. And another lesson he showed me, we call it weight cut day. So we're getting ready for this big tournament coming up, and we got the heater cranked up in this wrestling room. Guys are wearing sweats and sweatshirts. We've been monitoring how much food and water we've been drinking the past couple of days. So everybody's grouchy and hungry. And so we're wrapping up this 2-hour practice, right? And everybody's tired. So we're wrapping up, and coach says, "Okay, a couple more drills and we're done." He says, "Almost out of here." And so I remember I was leaning up against this wall, just breathing like crazy. My lungs are burning up, sweat's hitting the ground. I'm like, "Okay, survive a little bit longer." I'm almost out of here. Just survive a little bit longer. Coach says, drop down, give me 50 push-ups. And so for me, I'd pretty much been on crutches my entire life. So the crutches, even though I was small, my upper body was pretty strong because it's like I'm lifting 24/7. So coach said push-ups, and I got happy about that. I'm like, okay, no problem. I'm going to get these done as fast as I can. That way, while my teammates are catching up, while they're doing their 50 reps, I can get some water real quick, right? I can kind of just take a little break, catch a breather. So coach blows his whistle, and I fire off. I take off. Beat my teammates by about 15, 20 reps on my push-ups. So like planned, I'm sitting there, I'm drinking my water. I'm just kind of relaxing. I'm looking at them all just hanging out. Chris is right next to me, and he's doing his push-ups. He looked at me. He's like, why'd you stop? I was like, I did 50 already. He said, it's not enough. Keep going. And I wanted to argue with him for a second. Like I looked at him, I wanted to argue. I was like, Chris already beat me up pretty good today. I don't want to have to wrestle him anymore. I'm going to listen. All right? He tells me to do more, I'm going to do more. So I jumped down, doing some more push-ups. Next drill, coach says, give me 20 bear crawls. Again, I'm thinking, okay, bear crawls are no problem for me. I'm the fastest guy on the team with these. I'll finish early. Catch a break. Take off. I beat my team by about 5 reps. So again, I'm sitting there just kind of kneeling down, drinking my water. Chris comes running by. He's like, I thought I told you not to stop. Don't stop again. Keep going. Finally, practice ended that day. And as I'm sitting in the locker room with the rest of my teammates, Chris comes in, and in front of everybody, he yells at me. He said, look, if that's how you're going to train, I'm not going to waste my time on you anymore. He says, don't waste my time. If you really want to be the best, if you really want to reach that goal, you got to be willing to work harder than that. He says, you got to pay the price every single day. And Chris, one of the things he did, in the back of his locker, he had a big list of quotes. And one of the quotes that he shared with me, it said, the prize is in direct proportion to the price. The greater the reward you seek, the greater the effort needs to be to achieve it. And he was just basically just holding me accountable, just really showing me I wasn't paying the price. I was doing what was expected of me. I was doing what was asked, the minimum, but I wasn't doing enough to reach that greatness, to do what was necessary to reach the top. He said, you got to pay that price. And so it was really a mentality shift for me. You know, it really elevated me to the next level. And we started adding on extra workouts at the end of practice. We called them torture workouts. So a couple things we would do, we would run a mile with a 45-pound plate strapped to our back. Hated it. Arizona gets pretty hot. It's like 110, 115 sometimes in the summertime. And if you would pass by our high school, the high school parking lot, Chris and I would be out there pushing his Nissan Xterra over speed bumps just to get stronger. I hated it. It was tough. I mean, there was some hard workouts there, but it worked. I mean, paying that price, it worked. By my senior year, I was sitting there. I was 96-0 my last 2 years of high school. 2-time high school state champion, high school national champion, and honor roll student. And so like any high school athlete that wants to compete in college, I just remember sitting at the kitchen table, planning out my list of schools that I thought I might want to go to wrestle for. So I planned my list out. I was like, okay, I'm definitely getting a scholarship, a wrestling scholarship, right? I beat this guy during the season. He's off to Virginia Tech. He's off to Oklahoma, Stanford. I beat all these guys, and I beat him pretty good. So I'm definitely getting something. So planned out my list. Every day I'd come home from school just expecting an overflow of voicemails, emails, letters, everything. I was expecting them to be burning down the doors for me. That's not how it happened. I didn't get any letters, didn't get any phone calls. There was no voicemails waiting for me. And for a while, I was thinking, like, okay, mom, she's deleting my voicemails. She's not giving me the mail because she doesn't want me to go away for college. Like, there's no way they don't want me to wrestle for them, right? I proved myself. I did the work. I have the results here. I proved myself. It's time to get the goal, right? It's time to get the prize. I've earned it. I start calling schools. I start emailing them. The majority of them, they wouldn't even take the time to respond to me. They wouldn't even answer my calls. The few who did, they said 2 things. They said, number one, we think you're 30 pounds too light to wrestle the lightest weight class in college. They said, these guys are bigger, they're stronger, they're cutting more weight. You're 30 pounds too small. We don't think you're strong enough. They said, number two, this is Division I wrestling. These are the best of the best wrestlers in the country. We have 10 full-ride scholarships for a 33-man roster. They said, we don't think you can compete at this level. We don't think it's possible. And I remember just hanging up the phone, getting that answer. Because it broke my heart. I was like, I proved myself. I've earned it. I've did what I needed to do. Why not me? Everybody else got it. Why not me? And I was upset. I mean, I felt like I was that last place kid all over again. But my coach told me something. He's like, look, they're not going to give you what you want, so you got to take it. He says, you got to swallow your pride. You got to walk onto a program, earn a scholarship that way. And so Arizona State was not too far away from where I grew up. I called the coaches at ASU. They said, we have a guy in your weight class that's on a partial scholarship, so we can't give you any wrestling money right now. But if you're willing to try to walk on, we can offer you a walk-on position. If you do well, if you can get the starting spot, a couple years down the road, we can talk about giving you some wrestling scholarship money. I said, but right now, all we can offer you is a walk-on position. And, for me, at that point, all I wanted was the opportunity to prove myself, to show them what I was capable of, because all these other schools were saying it was impossible. One of my favorite quotes is, impossible is found only in a dictionary of fools. So I had to prove them wrong. I had a chip on my shoulder. I was going to show them, I'm going to get this. Wasn't the opportunity that I wanted, but it was still an opportunity that I could take advantage of. So I walked on, and for my first 2 years, I had a night job at Scottsdale and Sky Harbor Airport in Arizona. And basically, what I would do, I would go to school full-time. I would go to practice for about 2 hours from 3 to 5, 5:30. And then after that, I would shoot to the airports, and I would be in these huge hangars every single night, washing and waxing airplanes till about 10:30, 11 o'clock. So that was my job for 2 years, washing and waxing airplanes, get out of work at 10:30, 11 at night. I'd go home, study for couple hours, I'd wake up in the morning and repeat. 2 hours I did that, or two years I did that. And for my first year, they wouldn't even let me wrestle because I was too small. So I had to sit out in redshirt to bulk up. So I'm putting all this work in, I'm not even getting an opportunity to actually wrestle, to actually show what I had. There were plenty of times where I contemplated just kind of quitting, because I wasn't seeing those results. It's like, well, I don't know if this is ever going to pay off. I don't know if I'm ever going to reach the goal that I want. This is taking a lot longer than I expected. But I was always trying to focus on that end goal, of reaching that, saying, this is going to be worth it. I just got to be faith, because I got to have faith, because around the corner, it's going to pay off. I'll get there. And after 2 years, things started to pay off. I remember getting the starting spot, and I made it all the way to the national tournament, and I was one match away from becoming an All-American, which that's top 8 in the nation. That loss still makes me mad. I know you athletes know what I'm talking about, because the closest losses you never forget, right? This one I lost. It was by 2 points with 10 seconds left in overtime. And if you've seen those cartoons where like the cat and dog, they're rolling around, the dust cloud, right? That's how we look. I mean, we're scrapping. We're rolling around, going crazy, and it's sudden death. So whoever gets on top, whoever gets control, match over. My opponent gets on top of me, whistle blows, I'm done. Match ends. What made it hard on me, what was frustrating, is this guy, he was a 4-time All-American because of that match. He graduated, he was a senior, so I never got my payback on him. And he was also a friend of mine. So you can imagine he never let me forget that loss, right? So he graduated, I was still wrestling through college, and he'd text me every so often, like, hey man, see you wrestling this week, good luck, or hey, great job in that tournament. But he would always finish his text messages off with something just to knock me down a notch. So just be happy I'm not wrestling anymore. Or you're lucky I'm not there anymore wrestling against you. I never had a comeback to him, right? Never had a good comeback to that. But even though he was a 4-time All-American, he never won a national title. So I got this ring. I got this championship ring. And I remember I sent my mom a picture of it. And then right away, I texted him after my mom. I was like, hey, I said, I know you've never won a national title. You don't know how it feels to be a champion. So if you ever want to borrow my ring for a day. He's like, dude, that's not funny. I was like, yes, it is. I was telling his picture smiling. But, after that season, I felt like I was finally turning that corner. It's like, okay, 2 years of hard work. Now I'm finally seeing the results that I expect. Now I'm finally getting what I felt like I deserved. I'm reaching my goal. I get home. Coaches pull me into the office. Here's a full ride wrestling scholarship. I'm like, yes, now it's paying off for sure, right? I get the full ride. I did well this year. I can quit my night job, just focus on school and wrestling. Everything's great. Everything's where I wanted it to be, just as planned. I'm finally there. I don't know about you all, but it seems like for me, when things are rolling well, when I get them on the right track, I'm working hard, I start building this up. Out of nowhere, it's like life just knocks all my plans onto the ground. 2020, it's out of nowhere. And I just feel like I'm just getting hit from all sides. Things are just popping up and they're just trying to pummel me to the ground. And that's what started to unfold my next year in. So this is my redshirt sophomore year. School's going great. Wrestling's good. My ranking's climbing up. But towards the back end of my season, I felt like my body wasn't keeping up with me like it usually did. I'm still wrestling well. I'm winning matches, but I notice I'm getting tired a lot quicker in these matches. I notice I'm not as strong as I usually am. So, I'm evaluating things. I'm like, okay, I'm bigger now. Right? I'm muscular. I've gained some muscle mass. I'm losing more weight now. My body's not conditioned to that yet, to this weight cut. I just got to make sure I'm doing it healthy. Let my body condition get used to this. I'll be fine. So I try to push it out of my head. Not long after, I wake up one morning and it felt like my throat was like swollen shut. I couldn't drink anything. There was just this raw pain in my throat. My arms felt like I had just done a hard workout. They're achy, they're sore, just limp. I don't know what's going on. I just feel exhausted. I don't know what it is. So I go to Arizona State. They send me to the doctors there, run all these tests on me. And they come back, they say, it's not looking good. They said, we have to pull you out of wrestling and we're pulling you out of school too. Go home and rest until we tell you otherwise. They said, for now, we don't want you doing anything. We'll send your schoolwork home. Just rest. Don't think about working out. Don't do anything. And so this is towards the back end of my wrestling season. So I tried to reason with the doctors. I was like, okay, I won't do any physical contact, but can I swim? Can I do sit-ups? Can I do push-ups, pull-ups, something? Can I jump rope? They're like, absolutely not. They said, don't do anything. It's not safe for you. They said, you let your body rest, recuperate. You can't do anything. And so I go home and 21 days passed. I couldn't get cleared to go to school. I couldn't do any exercise for 21 days. I lose during that time 10 pounds of muscle mass. Everything I built up, 10 pounds, I'm lighter. My grades start to decline. And I just really started getting overwhelmed. Just my mind, everything that I was thinking about was just the challenges, all the hard times that I was going through, everything that wasn't going right for me. And one day in my apartment, I decided to call my mom up. It's like, Mom cheers me up. She helps me think right, get my mindset in the right path. I'm going to call Mom, see what's up with her. Dial her number. I will never forget, dialing her number and just hearing the tone of her voice when she said hello to me. My eyes got wet. I was like, hello, Mom? She's like, hey. And the tone of her voice, I knew something was wrong. I knew something was off. And so we're talking for a bit, and she's asking me how the latest doctor's labs went and the test results. And I was like, Mom, what is it? You having a bad day? What's going on with you? And she got quiet. I looked at my phone to make sure the call hadn't disconnected because she was just dead silent. And I pressed the phone real close to my ear, and I could hear her crying on the other side. And my heart dropped. I'm like, all right, Mom, what is it? Mom doesn't cry unless it's something serious. I know it's something big, something bad happened. And she said, there was a note from your dad. And she was talking about my stepdad. He had raised me since I was 3 years old. My last name, Robles, he adopted me when I was a kid. I've never met my biological father. I never knew him. He was never around. This is my dad. He said, your dad said he's leaving. He said, I don't know where he's at. All his stuff is gone. And 2 weeks passed. We didn't know where my dad was. We didn't know if he was alive or dead. We just had this note saying he was giving up. And even when we found out where he was, he never sent money back to help my mom out. He wasn't helping to support her. I had 3 brothers, a little sister who at the time, they weren't even in high school yet, not one of them. So my mom's full-time job was at home with my siblings. She wasn't getting paid for that. And so it got so hard, it got to the point where she was trying to keep this from me, but I found out she was selling her blood once a week just to put food on the table for my siblings. They kicked her out of the house because she couldn't afford the payments anymore. And I'm just on the phone with my mom, just hearing her break down, just crying. And it's just darkness all in my life. I'm talking to my mom. I was like, Mom, I'm useless here. I can't wrestle. I can't go to school. Tomorrow morning, I'll talk to the coaches. I'll withdraw. I'll quit the team. I don't need to wrestle anymore. I can't. I said, I'll finish my degree later on. Let me work full-time at my airport job. I'll get that back. When you're okay, I'll finish my degree later. And my mom said, no. She said, the best thing you can do for me is stay there and get that degree. She said, I do not want you giving up on your dream. You're going to be fine. She said, just have faith. Stay in there a little bit longer. They're going to let you wrestle. She said, but don't come home. I don't want you giving up on your goal. She said, you keep chasing that dream. And I tried to argue with her. I tried to tell her, like, Mom, I'm coming home tomorrow. I said, I'm packing my things. I'm coming home. There's nothing you can say or do to stop me. And people say I'm stubborn. I definitely get it from her, because my mom's like, you are not coming home. I'm not letting you through the door. No. I will call your coaches back and tell them that you're staying there. You changed your mind. Stay there. And so I hung up that phone. I stayed at Arizona State. I kept wrestling because my mom made me. There's no way. I didn't do it on my own accord. My mom forced me to stay at ASU. And when I hung up that phone, a couple days passed, and it's really just like the lowest point of my life. I felt like, there was nothing to look forward to. Everywhere I turned, it was just something hard, something just pulling me down, some challenge that I couldn't overcome, that I was overwhelmed by. And one of those days, my phone was on the counter and it starts vibrating. The Arizona State doctor. So I look at it. I don't want to talk to them. I hit vibrate. Silent. Ignore it. Beeps a couple seconds later. There's a voicemail. So I listen to it. Hey, Anthony, great news. Your last blood test looks good. So you can come back to train now. We'll see you tomorrow. You're fully cleared. Happy to have you back. And I remember just deleting that message, and there wasn't a single part of me that was excited to get it. My mind was on other things. But I delete the message. I go back because my mom wanted me there. School, I'm not paying attention. I go to practice, and I'm struggling. The guy that I beat for the starting spot, he's just whooping on me. My backup is beating on me. And this happens for pretty much that first week back. I have 2.5 weeks before the national tournament. So 1 week is gone. I have a week and a half, and I'm just wrestling like garbage. I'm not even looking like a starter. So one day, coach decides he's had enough. He's given me some time to kind of get out of this funk on my own, but he decides now he has to force me out of it. So we start practice up, and we're on this wrestling mat. It's like 30 of us. Coach is in front. He's like, okay, today's going to be an easy practice. He says, today, all we have to do is wrestle 3 matches. We're done. He looks at me. He's like, Robles, nobody's allowed to leave this room until you win at least 1 match, though. And so I'm looking at him, and like, my teammates are all staring at me, right? Like, this dude better hurry up and win a match. They're frustrated with me. Shrug my shoulders, like, all right, let's go. Coach blows his whistle. We start practice up. My teammates, they're wrestling. They got all their matches done. They're not allowed to leave. I wrestle 6 matches, can't win a single one. I'm not even close. So 7th match, now coach is he's laying into me. He's yelling at me. He's telling me I need to get tougher. I need to try harder. I'm not working hard enough. And my teammate, he's not letting up on me. My teammate, he's beating on my head. He's throwing me around this room like Chris did. I'm getting beat up. But he's talking to me the whole time. He's telling me, he's like, I know you got more fighting than that, man. He's like, come on, let's see it. Give me your best shot. He says, you can do this. And so at some point during that match, in my head, I kind of snap. I'm like, okay, I'm going to win it right now. I'm getting this takedown right now. Here we go. So we call it a takedown when you reach in for your opponent's legs, try to take him to the ground. So I went in for my takedown. I shot for his legs. As I reached, he got underneath both my arms. He locked his hands behind my back, pulled me close, and launches me in the air. So I go flying, slammed on my back, and he landed in a weird position to where his shoulder landed like almost center of my chest, just knocked the wind out of me. So like I'm down, I'm struggling to breathe. I feel this sharp pain in my chest. He's not stopping either. We didn't stop wrestling. In wrestling, the number one lesson you learn, the first rule you learn is you never go to your back. So instincts kicked in. I'm down there. We're still wrestling. I can't really breathe, sharp pain, but my mind is screaming to me, fight, get off your back, get up. And so I remember hearing that. I remember fight. I remember hearing that, get off your back. But then that voice just kind of went real quiet. Then my mind, it just started screaming to me, you're done. Give up. This is it for you. And I broke. I remember hearing that. I listened to that voice. I didn't hear Unstoppable at that moment. And I closed my eyes. And coach gave me a few seconds, I think, to reevaluate my decision, to try to fight back, to get off my back, get off and keep wrestling in this match. When he saw that I wouldn't do it, when he saw that I was done, he blew his whistle, and I'm laying there looking up at the ceiling, and he steps up over me. He's looking down. And he said, I guess I made a mistake giving you that scholarship. He said, I guess you're not what I thought you were. If you want to quit, there's the door. He said, we don't need you. And all my teammates were just looking at me. It was quiet. And I'm looking at my coach. I break down crying in front of all of them. I mean, my eyes, I'm weeping. As fast as I could, I stood up. I walked to the locker room, and I slammed the door shut behind me as hard as I could. The wall was shaking. And as I'm in there, I'm packing up my things. I'm clearing my locker out. I remember just ripping my name tag off the back of the locker and just throwing it across the room. And I was just in this rage. I was just this sadness in me. Coach comes in. I turn to walk out, and he's blocking the doorway. I'm like, man, I don't want to hear Coach right now. I don't want to hear him yell at me, but it's going to come. He's going to scream. Ignore him. Check out mentally. Once he's done, I never got to deal with him again. I'll quit. I'll be out here. So I'm looking at the ground. I'm waiting. Staring there. Coach doesn't say a word. And I finally looked at him in the eyes, and he took this step forward, and he gave me this big old hug, like bear hugged me. And like for a moment, the tough wrestler in me kicked in. So he hugged me. I flexed up, right? Puffed my chest out, like, get off me. Like, why are you hugging me? It's like, get off. Wouldn't let go of me. Just held on, and little by little, my shoulders just kind of dropped. You know, I let my guard down. I could feel the tennis ball building in my throat. I was trying to bite my lip and couldn't help it. My eyes, what I like to say is my eyes got really sweaty. You know, I started weeping. I mean, I was just crying hysterically, and he's just holding on to me. And it's just, there was like no hope at that moment. I mean, I was like, I give up. I don't know what else to do, Coach. Like, I don't know what am I supposed to do here? And he's like, let's sit down. He's like, tell me what's going on. And he knew about my sickness, right? He knew the doctors were filling him in. He knew about that, about physically what I was dealing with. He didn't know mentally what I was going through. He didn't know about my family challenges. So I basically just lay everything out on the table. I tell him every obstacle, every opponent I'm wrestling with at that moment. And he listened intently to me, just quiet. And he was kind of nodding his head and shaking it. And after I got done just putting everything out there, he said, look, he said, I can't imagine what you're going through right now. He said, but you got to remember something. Whether you like it or not, there's always going to be a speed bump. He said, there's always going to be an opponent you don't want to wrestle. There's always going to be an opponent you don't think you can beat. He says, but you can't control that. You can't control what's waiting for you. You can't control the challenge that you have to deal with. All you can do is react to it. He said, how are you going to respond to the situation you're in? Either you break or you fight through it. You grind through that situation. He says, how are you going to react to this challenge, to these challenges right now? He said, you think about that. Go home. We love you on this team. We want you here. He said, but if you don't believe in yourself, there's nothing anybody can do for you. He says, go home. Let me know what you decide. And so, I went home, and in my head, it's just full of the darkness. It's just full of all the obstacles in my way. It hadn't clicked what Coach was telling me. But I started thinking to myself, my mom wants me here. I love my teammates. My coach, he gave me a chance with this wrestling scholarship. He believes in me. I at least want to try for them. I'm going to give it everything I got. I'm going to go to the nationals. If I get beat up, oh well. At least they know I tried. I gave it everything I had. So we fly to St. Louis, national tournament. I'm there. 18,000 fans in this huge arena. And because I had been sick for so long, I don't have any ranking anymore. So they throw me to the Wolves early. I get a hard bracket. Second match, I got to wrestle a guy. He's beaten me before, twice. Once was earlier that year when I was healthy. He was ranked third in the country. And mentally, it was a challenge for me because he came from the number one school that I wanted to wrestle for coming out of high school. He was an Iowa Hawkeye. So for those who don't know wrestling, Iowa is a top-notch program every year. I mean, they're All-Americans, national champions like crazy. They're tough. And they pride themselves in being tough. Mentally, physically, they just beat on their opponents. They're very intimidating. We kind of say they're like the Darth Vaders of wrestling. It's like you get an Iowa guy, you're in for a tough match. You're in for a scrap. It's kind of nerve-wracking. All right, so I'm on this mat, and like any athlete, you try to get in the zone, right? So I got my headphones in, and I'm pacing back and forth. I'm shaking my arms out, trying to get my mind right, ready to wrestle this dude. He's on his side of the mat, and so I'm pacing, and I notice he's following me on his side, like he's back and forth, just locking eyes with me. He's not taking them off. And I like watching those Animal Planet documentaries, and I love watching the lions hunting, and when they show like the look in the lion's eyes when they're about to pounce, right? That's how he was staring me down, like he's about to get me. And so I'm looking, I'm trying to get in the zone. I'm trying to pump myself up mentally, just telling myself I got what it takes to win this match. I look at him, I see the way he's looking back at me, and then I start thinking, okay, he's beaten me twice before. I'm 10 pounds lighter. I don't think I can win this match. I started piling up all the reasons why I couldn't do it, all the reasons why it was going to be hard in front of me. I was no longer focused on winning. I was no longer focused on my goal. I was preparing myself to lose. I think that's a human thing to do sometimes. It's like, yeah, we got the goal, we got something we want to achieve, but the second something comes into our path that's a challenge, that's hard, we start shifting our focus to what's hard. We no longer zero in on what we're chasing. We just pile on everything that's affecting us, everything that's going to make it hard, and we lose sight of that end goal. That's what I was doing. I was preparing myself to lose before I even tried, before I gave it everything I had. And so I'm like, all right, this is where I go out. This is where it ends for me. And so I go to my corner, getting ready to go out there and get beat up, and grab my water. I'm drinking one last sip of it. Coach is sitting there. He had this face, this expression, like he was so happy he wasn't me at that moment. And I remember I look at him, I start laughing. Coach smiles, he starts laughing. He knew I needed to just chill out for a second, relax. And he doesn't say anything, but I remember he shrugged, looked at me and just, it's that moment, I finally understood what Coach was trying to teach me in that locker room, what he was trying to share with me. Yeah, this is a tough opponent I got to wrestle right now. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why I shouldn't win this match, why I can't win this match. But how am I going to react? I can either accept defeat before I even try. I can prepare myself to lose, or I can go out there and grind. I can figure out a way to get this done. And that's what unstoppable truly is. It doesn't mean you don't doubt sometimes. It doesn't mean you don't fear, you don't face those setbacks. It means you wrestle through that. You wrestle through the discomfort. You fight through that struggle. And I was like, all right, I get it. I don't know how I'm going to win this match, but I'm going to beat this guy. I'm going to get this done. And shake Coach's hand one last time. He sends me out there. My opponent's already waiting on the line, 10 inches away from me. So I step on it. He's just glaring at me. I know his style. His style is just a bully. He's right in your face, just pounding on you nonstop till the very end. He wears his opponents down physically and mentally. So I know what he's going to do to me. Earlier when I was healthy, that's how he beat me. He just wore me down. Because I was sick for so long, my conditioning's not there. I had struggled to get through my warm-ups without tiring out. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I know I don't have my conditioning. I know I can't last a full match with this guy. One of my biggest assets was my strength, upper body. So I had done so many pull-ups. You saw with the chains. I had done so many pull-ups and my upper body was strong. I was lighter, but stronger. 10 pounds of muscle mass gone was all in the upper body. So I don't have my biggest asset. I don't have my number one tool. My strength is out the window. So I'm thinking, okay, I don't have that to work with. But I can just attack this guy full on, try to end this match in the first period. I'll give him everything I had in this first period and take him out. That's my goal. I'm going to pin him quick. End it. So if you watch the match, the coach, the ref blows the whistle, my coach is yelling. He's like, get him, get him. And so I go in, I'm attacking. I'm going crazy on him, and we're right there in the center. We don't even leave that spot. We're just boom, back and forth. I wish I could tell you my strategy worked like we planned it to. It didn't. It went 3 full periods, full match. And I was exhausted after that. I mean, coach had to help me off the mat, and he put me up against the wall. I slid down the wall and just laid on the ground, looking up at the ceiling. I couldn't even open up my water bottle. My arms were so dead. But I was laying there, and I was smiling because I beat this guy by 9 points. And I scored all my points in that first period. Just that attack. I scored all those points there. Was able to wrestle smart the rest of the match. And that tournament ended up getting to the semifinals. I eventually finished 4th place. So I was 4th in the nation, All-American for my very first time. Didn't win my title yet, but mentally that prepared me to. And mentally it it changed my outlook on things for the rest of my life. Because the way I see it, we all do have to wrestle with opponents. We all have a challenge that's going to pop up. Most of the time, we're not prepared to face it. We don't expect it. We don't plan for the obstacles. We don't plan for those things that pop up out of nowhere. And it can really affect you mentally. But what I learned is you don't focus on the challenge. You don't focus on why you can't do it. You focus on why you can. You build on that. That's what unstoppable is. You grind till the very end, wrestle till the very end. And that got me ready for the dream. What you saw there, senior year, end of a 3-day tournament. I've wrestled 4 matches to get to that point. So my body is beat up. I'm wrestling the best of the best wrestlers in the country. I'm bruised everywhere. You saw I had a bandage on my cheek. Earlier in that tournament, I had gotten kicked a couple of times in my face, so my cheek was like split open and swollen. Everything hurts, but I have to wrestle one more match. And this match is against the returning national champion. So this guy, he's beaten opponents that I had lost to the previous year. To make it tougher on me, he was also an Iowa Hawkeye, a different one. So I'm nervous. I felt like in that tunnel as I'm about to run out, I felt like, again, the last place wrestler in Mesa. I felt like, again, like I just questioning myself, like, I don't know if I'm prepared for this. I don't know if I can win this match against this guy, and I'm nervous. ESPN cameras are right in my face with the bright light. I kept turning my back because I was wiping tears from my eyes. Everything's just, I'm shaking. So they tell me, okay, we're live, run out. And so I run out on this red carpet, and just that scene, 20,000 fans. I could see cameras flashing all the way around the arena. The roar was intense. I step on that mat, that platform. I could feel it vibrating underneath me because the crowd was that loud. And typically, you're supposed to go to the center to grab your colored ankle bracelets so the ref knows which color you are. Instead of going to the center, I go straight to my corner, and I have my back to the center of the mat because the champ was coming out. We were supposed to meet in the center when we grabbed our bracelets. And I didn't want him to see the look in my eyes, that look of fear. He was going to feed off of that. I knew it. So I got my back to him. I'm looking up at the crowd, looking at the fans, panicking. I was like, I'm not ready for this. I can't do this. And I'm looking around, just freaking out. I lock up in one section, though. It was way high up in one section, and it was special because my mom, she knew that by my senior year of college, every year the national tournament would shift to a different state. Her goal was by my senior year of college, she wanted to save up enough money to not only have the money to fly out herself, but be able to fly my siblings out. So I'm looking up at my mom, my 3 little brothers, my little sister. My high school coach was there. My high school teammate, Chris, were all there cheering for me. And my youngest brother, Andrew, he was wearing a black Unstoppable t-shirt. We had made him up for the first time for that tournament. So it said Unstoppable. It said Team Robles in the back. So I'm looking at him, cheering, jumping up and down, and my voice is in the crowd. That was my support right there. And I just want to personally say for a second, I have so many goals moving forward with my pull-up challenge, with a podcast I've started, and Safe Streets. You've been my voice in the crowd. You guys have been my support, just being able to get these things off the ground. So I can't thank you enough for really just being behind me and supporting me as I chase these goals. At that moment, I'm looking at my support up there. I was like, man, I got this. I'm gonna win it for them. This is nothing. I can win this. I've been through bigger challenges. It's a bad night to be him because I'm not losing this. No way. I got it. And so I go to the center. We shake hands. I don't remember much of the match at all. It was blurry to me, but I do remember 10 seconds left. You saw in the video, with 10 seconds left, I was up 7-1. So the only way he could win, he had to pin me. He had to throw me to my back. I knew that. So I'm on the ground. His chest was pretty much on the back of my head. We call that front head cover position. So what he was doing was he was stretching my arm next to my ear, and he had his hands locked under my chin. So I'm like this. His hands are under my chin. He's pulling up. All his weight is in the back of my head. So basically, I'm kind of getting choked down there, and my face is getting smashed into the wrestling mat. He's trying to get the leverage underneath my arm to throw me over and pin me. So it's kind of like a chess match. I know what he's doing. If I fight his hands, he gets that leverage he wants under both my arms. He's going to win it. So I'm down there. I'm reasoning with myself. It's like, okay, if I fight those hands, he's going to pin me. I lose his match. But if I don't, I'm eating wrestling mat right now. He could choke me out. This is painful. But I'm down there. I was smiling the whole time because Hey, I don't mind eating wrestling mat. I'm about to be a national champion. It's fine. If he chokes me out, they'll wake me up. I'll be a national champion. That's pretty cool. Take a nap. I'm still a national champion. I'm fine. So I'm down there and I'm smiling. He's cranking hard on me. He's just working and I'm smiling. And I could hear the ref count down 10, 9. They get down to 0. And my whole body just dropped to the ground. I mean, I'm face down. I closed my eyes and hearing the roar of the crowd, them saying 2011 national champ, Anthony Robles. I'm just saying that. And obviously, I know we're not all going for wrestling titles. We're not all chasing championship rings, but you all have something. As a individual, as a business, you have something that you're chasing. You have a goal that you want to accomplish. And I just want to encourage y'all, always stay focused on the goals. Always stay focused on the dreams that you're chasing, because there's going to be an opponent you don't want to wrestle. There's going to be an opponent that you think is too big and strong for you to be able to overcome, but unstoppable. Unstoppable. How do you react to that situation? Tell yourself, I'm going to grind. I'm going to wrestle to the end. I'm going to get this done. And my life was never the same after that. I mean, been blessed, living the dream, traveling to speak across the country. I've been all over the place, and we're working on the movie deal right now. Hopefully we'll get ready to start filming early next year. I keep pushing for Denzel to play me, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So, hopefully we'll see. But it's just been such an honor. I mean, truly living the dream. And one of the honors I had was to go to the ESPY Awards. And so, I'm there, and this is one of my earlier speeches, not long after the third graders, actually. So I'm at the ESPYs, and this is 3,000 of the world's greatest athletes. Like, I'm looking down at LeBron James and Serena Williams, Kobe Bryant, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. They're all there. I'm gazing at all of them. And I just remember, though, I come out, I'm nervous. And one person helped me to forget that I was nervous, because I walk out. First row center seat was Justin Bieber. So I was like, why is Justin Bieber here? It's like all these cool athletes. Like, how'd he get that seat? But I remember I looked at him, and I forgot I was nervous, but I really wanted to leave my heart out there in some way, in my speech. I didn't want to just say a list of thank yous. I wanted to really try to do that Jimmy V Award some justice, just put my heart out there. And so I finished off with a poem, and I would like to close with that poem before I answer some questions. This poem, it's called Unstoppable. And, as I'm overcoming my challenges in my life, as I'm wrestling my opponents, as I'm trying to stay focused on my goals, there are times where I doubt myself. There are times where I feel like I'm about to break. I feel like I don't have what it takes to rebuild, to keep fighting. This poem inspires me, so I hope it'll inspire you. So this is Unstoppable for you. Every soul who comes to earth with a leg or two at birth must wrestle their opponent knowing it's not what is, it's what can be that measures worth. Make it hard, just make it possible. And through pain, I won't complain. My spirit is unconquerable. Fearless, I will face each foe, for I know I am capable. I don't care what's probable. Through blood, sweat, and tears, I am unstoppable. But Safe Streets, thank you so much for allowing me to share my story with you today. It's truly an honor. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you all for the opportunity. And I think I have a few minutes for some questions. So if anybody has any for me, I'm happy to answer them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I've heard that you love cooking houses.
I do.
Do you do all the demo work yourself?
For the most part, yeah. Actually, I'm in the process of flipping a house in Mesa, back where I live. And I love doing the demo part. I'm tiling, painting, all that stuff. So most recently, we had to jackhammer a 6-inch thick patio. It took me like 5 hours to do. It was it's been a workout, but yeah, it's a lot of fun for me. So
during your intro video, your mom mentioned when you started out, people would say that you're at a disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you start winning, people would switch and say, oh, it's because he has an advantage.
Yeah.
What's your reaction to that?
Honestly, when I first started hearing that, it made me so mad. I was like, man, I guess I woke up and all of a sudden it was an advantage, I don't know. But, for me, when I first heard it, I felt like they were taking away from all the hard work that I put into the sport. like they were taken away from all those sacrificing moments that I was doing. But when I looked at the big picture, I realized that I was accomplishing my goal in a way, because I never wanted to be the wrestler that they felt sorry for because, I was less than, because I was lacking something. I wanted to be just like everybody else, but better. I wanted to excel. So I felt like, okay, now I'm getting so dominant, I'm getting so good that they have to tear me down. And I was okay with that. I felt like, no matter what I do, there's going to be negativity out there, but I just got to focus on what I'm chasing. So, I think in the big picture, though, it did become an advantage because it was a big challenge I had to learn to overcome, but it made me stronger. That the challenges will make you stronger if you choose to embrace that, if you choose to grind through that. And, this challenge, it definitely made me stronger mentally to go out there and just prove myself. So thank you for the question.
So you had this goal that you've had since you were young, and once you achieved it, I'm sure it was a phenomenal feeling. But was it difficult trying to find that next goal in life, and how did you move forward with that?
It definitely was difficult. I know going from high school to college, it's kind of an easy transition there. But once I won my national title, I was like, okay, what's next? What do I do next? And so I started to kind of evaluate things in my life. I was actually pursuing going to the Olympics for a little while. I was training for the Olympics, but my heart was never 100% in that path. The reason for that is the style of wrestling in the Olympics, it's slightly different than college wrestling. So it kind of takes the fun out of it for me. And so, I'm training, but I wasn't 100% there. And something happened to me. Big picture, it was one of the best things that could have happened. I actually got injured during the practice. I tore my Achilles tendon. So I didn't see it as a great thing at the time, but it forced me to stay off the mat for a little while as I was recovering. And during that time, I really focused 100% of my effort on motivational speaking. And the passion was there, but the more I was able to go out and travel and share, that really took over my heart. And I felt like, okay, I accomplished my goal in wrestling. That chapter's done. Time to focus on new things. And so now my passion is speaking. It's continuing to share and impact people's lives. And I've set up other goals for myself now. Other things like house flipping, like chasing these Guinness records for pull-ups and other things. So even though my goals are done, I like to try to challenge myself to improve. One of my trainers would tell me, he said, a body and mind unchallenged is a body and mind unchanged. So I'm always trying to just find the next challenge and push myself to get better and better. So thank you.
Anthony, what advice would you give to some of these younger guys when it comes to putting themselves, maybe it's not wrestling, but maybe it's something else that, as parents, it's always, we want to put our kids in the best position to see what they're capable of. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they would rather hear that from a coach or a friend or, someone other than us. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give these guys when they get dealt a rough hand, or when they're questioning, do I take the rougher path or do I take the easier path? Mm-hmm.
I would say, always challenge yourself. Don't be afraid, because I know sometimes when you take that rougher path, when it's hard, you're kind of afraid that you're not going to do well, right? You're kind of afraid you're going to lose, you're going to fail, or, can't worry about that, because the champions, they learn from those losses. The champions, they learn because they challenge themselves to get better. And that's one thing, like when you're in the weight room, right? When we're lifting weights, if you lift the light stuff, you don't really get stronger, right? You don't really get faster. It's when you challenge yourself and you see how much you can lift, then you get stronger. Sometimes, you might not be able to lift the weight. Then you have to kind of take a step back and work a little bit harder for a while, right? But then you lift that weight, then you get better and stronger and stronger. So I'd say don't be afraid to challenge yourself. Don't be afraid to fail, because someone told me failure, it stands for first attempt in learning. So you can't be afraid to fail. That's what makes you better. Ma'am.
Personal question. Did your birth father
ever surface? No, he didn't. And honestly, there was a time where I kind of considered trying to find my birth father, but I've been so blessed. I have a great mama, and she was my mom and my dad growing up. As far as my stepfather is concerned, we stopped talking back in my senior year of college. I haven't talked to him since, but I've been blessed with other people who have really stepped into my life and been like father figures. Growing up and going through college, it was my high school and college coaches. They're still in the picture now. So, I feel like I'm blessed. I have the family that I want, and I've learned from that experience. I know in the future I'd like to be a father, and I've learned from my dad the good things, but also the bad things, what not to do. So I'm blessed now. I wouldn't change anything about my life. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever
Absolutely. And actually, it was for, I want to say about a year. I was actually a volunteer coach at Arizona State University, but the opportunity came up I also do wrestling commentating for ESPN and Pac-12 Network. And so the opportunity came up to do the commentating for ESPN, but they told me like, look, it's an NCAA violation to do both. So you have to choose. I was like, I'm not going to turn down ESPN, So, and I go into the Arizona State wrestling room whenever I can, just rolling around. But big picture, one of my long-term goals, I really want to be a high school wrestling coach. And the reason that I want to be a high school coach is because at that level, my coach really impacted my life. He was like a father figure to me. And I feel like we need more positive role models for that age group. And so that's a passion of mine. And so, down the road, I really want to be a high school wrestling coach. So looking forward to it.
One more, Anthony, sorry.
What's that?
So it mentioned that you were a Nike athlete.
Sir.
I know there's probably more to that story because I don't think there are very many that are actually lifetime Nike athletes. Can you kind of give us a little bit of background on what that looks like, and have you met Phil Knight? And
Yes, sir.
That's probably a pretty cool story there.
Actually, it's a really cool story, and I wish I could have brought something with me. But so, just going to Nike, I remember, going on a visit my first time ever, and just being at the Nike campus out in Oregon was amazing. It was like Disneyland out there. There's athletes all over the place, and I got to give a talk to all the employees and some of the athletes, and Phil Knight invited us to his office afterwards, and I was like, it's like the Wizard of Oz going to that office. It was crazy. But just sitting there in Mr. Knight's office, and he was just telling me, he's like, you're going to be a Nike athlete for life. And to hear that, to be in that place, it was a dream. To go from crying in my bedroom because I didn't have a single award there to now being in Phil Knight's office saying, you're a Nike athlete for life. And not only that, they presented me with this hand-carved shoebox. It said Unstoppable on it, and it has my record on it. And I have my own custom pair of Air Force Ones that say Unstoppable on there. And so it's like, that's, to have that trophy, to have that, it's a long way from where I started. And I could never have dreamed that, I could never have imagined those possibilities, but it was truly a blessing. And it really just goes back to show you, sometimes you're going to go through the valleys. Sometimes you're going to go through the dark times, but you have to have faith. Even though you might not see the light, that's when the faith kicks in. You keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because had I quit that night, I wouldn't be here today. And so it was truly a blessing to be in Phil Knight's office. So yeah, for me, it's nothing but Nike gear now. I went home and threw out all the Adidas, everything else. We don't have that, not allowed in my family. So not in this house. Yes, sir.
Who's your favorite motivational speaker?
My favorite motivational speaker? I would say I really like Les Brown. Yeah, I love Les Brown, and a couple other ones that I really listen to now. Kevin Bracey is another great speaker. I love Dan Clark. I'll listen to Jimmy Valvano's old speeches. And really for me, it's just, I draw from different areas. I love Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, just the passion there. And that's what I like to draw from, those people who just put their heart out there, that passion that motivates me, inspires me. And I learn from that. That's what I want to emulate. So.
Yeah. Have you ever been able to get a prosthetic leg? And if so, how come you don't have one?
Actually, I do have a prosthetic, and I had one when I was a kid, but it was like a heavy piece of wood. I hated it. Being a kid, everyone's running around, jumping on their bikes, and it was basically like an anchor to me. So every chance I got, I would actually take it off and I'd hide it, because my mom, she'd try to make me practice with it. So whenever she wasn't looking, I'd hide it like in a closet, or someone was like, I don't know where it's at, Mom. It's disappeared. She finally gave me the option. She's like, all right, do what you want to do. She's like, however you want to get around, I'll let you do it. So I chose the crutches. But after I graduated from college, I had an opportunity to get another prosthetic leg. It's like I was 23 years old at the time. And so the prosthetics now, they're amazing. The technology in them, I remember they were typing in numbers on a laptop, and it was like moving itself. I was like, I was looking down like, oh, this is crazy. But it's still a challenge to use, because I'm missing my leg above the knee, and that's a rarer form, and it's harder for them they call it the socket, which kind of secures to your body. It's really uncomfortable for me to wear. That's a challenge I'm dealing with. It feels like a body cast. And so like right now, I'm learning, I can walk with a cane, so it's very slow. It's very different than what I'm used to. I'm so free and fast with these. So it's frustrating, but a goal for me, and the reason why I'm using it now is I'm engaged. I'm getting married in November. So thank you. So scariest speech I ever gave there. But my goal is I want to be able to wear this prosthetic and walk down the aisle. So I think honestly, I think it's harder for me than this 24-hour pull-up challenge to get used to this leg, but I'm motivated for it. So. Yes, sir. The pull-up challenge? Yes, sir. So I'm honored. I can say that I've broken 3 Guinness World Records for pull-ups. Most pull-ups are just my body weight in a minute. I did 62. I broke the record for most pull-ups with an 80-pound pack on my back, and then most pull-ups with a 60-pound pack. This final record that I'm going for will be in September. It's looking like September 25th. And this is most pull-ups in 24 hours. And so the record is 7,715 that I have to beat. It's very intimidating. And honestly, that's what drew me to go after this record. Because I remember I read David Goggins' book. He broke it a couple years back. He did like 4,000, and then someone beat him, did the 7. But I remember reading it in that book and just hearing how hard it was for him to get through, just not just physically, but mentally. And as I'm reading that, like my mind was screaming to me, no way, there's no way you can do that. And I remember reflecting on that. It's like, that's not what unstoppable is. I got to keep my mind in check, and I want to challenge myself for it. So right now we're training. I got a good team behind me. We're just building up little mini scenarios. But for me, really, I'm just focused on 1 rep at a time. I mean, when I look at the big goal, the 7,000, it's very intimidating. But I'm breaking it down 1 rep at a time. I can do that. I can do 1 pull-up. So in our practices, I have them turn the clock around. I'm not looking at the clock. We're doing like 3 hours, 6 hours. I don't look at the clock. I just have 1 clock set up for 1 minute. So every minute on the minute, I'm doing my reps. And I'm telling myself 1 at a time, 1 at a time. So I'm going to get this done, I believe, September 25th. Sir.
How many reps were you doing?
So I know bare minimum, in order to beat the record, I'd have to do 5 pull-ups a minute, every minute for 24 hours. Right now, in my training, I'm doing between 8 to 10 reps a minute. And so if I can do that, I think if I can do that straight, I can break the record in about 16 hours. So I would love to get some breaks in there. So we'll see. I know we're slowly increasing my numbers. So I'm going to try to get up to 12 to 15 reps and build on that, see where our body's at. But it's just, it's strategic. We're messing around, just seeing what I'm capable of doing. So, but yes, sir.
Are you drawn to that technicality and preparation and how you can't just do it, you have to take almost a year or 2 and then get to that point,
Yeah. Honestly, I am. Yeah, I love just kind of having to really just put something together to where I can't do it now, but down the road, just really just seeing what my limits are, and then pushing through those things, breaking through those barriers. And, that's one thing. After I got done competing and wrestling, I was going to the gym every day still, but I just wasn't getting that same challenge. It wasn't the same as me preparing for an opponent that I hadn't beaten yet or that had beaten me and getting that same level of competition, So that's why I got into the pull-ups was this is heavyweight, 80 pounds. That's tough. At the beginning, I couldn't lift it. I couldn't do those reps, but I love just being able to track my progress, and that's one thing. For me, as I go after my goals, I treat it like a wrestling match in my head. I plan it out. I'm like, okay, this is what I got to do to be successful. This is what I got to do to reach my goal. And then I kind of keep points. Okay, I didn't work out today. That's a point for them. If I did, okay, I'm winning, And so I just like that, just that mental wrestling match in my head, just preparing myself for something that part of me doesn't think I can do, and then doing that. And then it just builds my confidence even more. And, I love going downstairs and looking at my trophy case. It's for me, it's great to remember the moments of success. But when I look at the trophies, when I look at the rings and things, I'm more so reminded of the struggles that I went through. Of the days where yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm sore. Yeah, I don't want to do it today. No, I don't really feel like pushing, but I did. And that's why I like looking at those things. It reminds me the value of embracing that grind. So, thank you. We're good. Yes, sir.
after me, I'll have an opponent
Mhm.
that I usually get beat by. And like I had this guy, I remember his name was Bryson Floyd. And the first time he beat me, I'm pretty sure he teched me.
Mhm.
Then after that, it slowly, he would beat me by less and less points. And then one time in the quarterfinals at state, I think he was up by 9 points. And in like the final seconds, I was able to get him on his back and pin him for the win.
Nice.
And at that point, like I would find opponents and be like, that's gonna be my Bryson. Like he's gonna be who I'm gonna work to be able to beat. Like, did you ever have a time where like someone was your Bryson?
I love that. I love that. You're unstoppable, man. What's your name?
Zach.
Zach. It's nice to meet you. It's a pleasure, man. You said Bryson? That's your trainer? I did have a Bryson. Yeah, actually, when I was going through high school, number one guy that stands out to mind. Actually, the first time we wrestled, he beat me with 30 seconds left by a takedown. But then the second time we wrestled, he teched me. And so, I felt like I kind of took a step back. But yeah, I remember like, I'm going to train for this guy, right? I'm going to beat this guy. And so we wrestled at state, and it was the round to place. And so we were going down, we were tied. And then with like 15 seconds left, I was on the bottom, I reversed him. And so I ended up beating him by that. But yeah, that was my guy, Carver Hall. That was my Bryson. But that's what you train for, right? You train for the ones you can't beat, for the ones that are hard. And I like that because every single time you learned, right? You got a little bit closer to them, and then you beat them. Right? And that's how you approach those goals, right? Like every single time, you might not get it right away, but what do? You get a little bit closer, right? You got to take bites away from it. You're unstoppable, man. Yes, sir.
Anthony, what do you tell people that have a hard time welcoming the struggle in their life where it just feels like it keeps on coming and they can't catch a break, they don't get a win, and they might not even have a big goal? What do you tell somebody that's at that place in their life?
That's tough. For me, there have been times where I've been in that situation, and I just do my best to count my blessings in my life. Even if they're the little things, if it's family, if it's friends, or if it's just, the roof over your head, just those little things. Because what I've come to learn and what I've seen is that, there's always someone out there in the world that has it a little bit tougher than you, and it doesn't take very long for you to find those people. So just count those little blessings. Remember how fortunate you are, even though, what you're going through right now, it's hard. It's a struggle. You might not see the light, but remember, there's someone that has it harder than you. And remember, little slow progress is progress. Like what can you do in the situation that you're in at that moment? What can you do to better it? And it might be a little thing, but that little thing, it's a step forward. It's still a movement forward. And one thing in wrestling that I learned as I matured, it's like, especially in athletics in general, it's like, everybody wants to win, right? In wrestling, I wanted to get my arm raised. I wanted to get the top of the podium. But the champions realize it's not about focusing on the end goal right away. It's about focusing on the little positions, those little things that you can do right in front of you, and that's going to get you to the end goal. So like, you're not where you want to be. Yeah, it's hard right now, but what can you do to get that little step forward? To win, we say win the position. What can you do to win your position so you can wrestle forward, get the arm raised at the end? So, yes, sir.
I've got one online from Brandon Guthrie. She asks, what is the one go-to thing you do to pick yourself up and push through when times are tough?
The one thing that I do? Well, I do two things. One, I recite that Unstoppable poem to myself. But number two, there's a song. It's my all-time favorite song, and this song I would listen to right before every single wrestling match. Like literally right before I would step out there to scrap with my opponents. It's Simple Man by Leonard Skinner. And I mean, the words in that song, it's very, it's touching, it's emotional because, my relationship with my mom, she was my mom, my dad. She always believed in me. She's my hero. And so those words, it just reminded me of my mom, just talking to me, just telling me I'm unstoppable. So those two things, my poem, reciting that, and then listening to Simple Man, that's what gets me through. Well, thank you for the question for me. Sir.
What do you say was your most difficult match? Taking in mental, emotional, physical situation in your life. That could have been in high school or college. Or then even one of your national championships. What was your hardest match or fight that you had?
My hardest match, and I'd say there's three of them that are really close. Number one, well, the championship was really hard just because it was just very intimidating, because I'm like, I trained for 9 years for this one moment, and in 7 minutes I could either make or break my dream. But there was another one. I'll share both of them actually. In the semifinals, my senior year, I'm wrestling, and it's the guy that I'm wrestling. We've wrestled 6 times up to that point, 5 or 6 times. So we know each other. We know strengths, weaknesses. We know everything. I knew it was going to be a close match. He was going through that tournament, and he was just beating higher seeded guys. He was on fire. What made it so tough was that we were good friends, and we came in as freshmen together, so we've been wrestling all the way up. We were friends. I knew his family. I knew his wife. And so it was like, in this match, one of us was going to get our dream crushed, and so like, I remember before that match, I'm just telling myself in my head, he's not your friend. He's not your friend. He's standing in your way. And that was a hard one to wrestle for me mentally, but it was just a great lesson for me afterwards because his name was Ben Kerr. He wrestled at Utah Valley. And so I remember, we wrestled. I beat Ben by like a point or two. It was close. And, I can't imagine how heartbreaking that was for him being a senior. But after that match, he gave me a big hug. He's like, man, I'm so proud of you. He's like, keep going. He's like, if anybody's going to win this, I want it to be you. And I mean, for me, it was just very humbling, just how Ben accepted that loss. And it was a lesson to me. He's a true champion, so that one. But I'd say the final one, I think I might have shared this earlier, but we were wrestling Iowa State. This was home, Arizona State. And I was top 5 in the country. The guy was top 5 as well. And it was just one of those matches where I was struggling. So I go in early, I get thrown to my back, I fight off. Fast forward into the third period. We're starting the third period. I'm down by 9 points. I'm getting beat on in this match. And in front of my home crowd, they're all quiet, So I'm looking at my coaches. They're sitting there, their heads are down, like they're accepting my defeat. So I remember looking at them, I was like, screw that. I'm not losing this. I'm coming back, And I picked top, which is my best position. I remember getting on this guy. I started turning him, scoring points, and little by little, like the crowd at first were like, yeah, slow little claps. As I got closer, they're like clapping louder and louder. And 30 seconds left, I was up by a point. All I had to do was hold him down, and the crowd was just going nuts, And that was definitely a memorable moment for me. I ended up winning that match. I was dead tired, but those 3 experiences, it was just life lessons for me as well. Overcoming fears, how to handle a loss from Ben, and then also just coming back from a deficit, coming back from something that people didn't think I could do. So those ones right there. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Got another one online from Jada. And so he says after September, after you're doing the 24-hour pull-up challenge, he's like, where else can they plan to watch you competing? Do you have any plans after that?
I have no plans as of yet to pursue any more pull-up challenges. I believe this is going to be my last pull-up challenge, and I'll be pursuing other things, but we'll see.
Maybe an easier one, like catching marshmallows or something.
I wouldn't mind that, but honestly, right now, after this pull-up challenge, I think as far as the physical challenges go, I might take a break for a bit. My big goal is really to continue growing the podcast, stop. I just love the goal behind it, which is to share incredible stories of people who have wrestled through challenges to do amazing things. And I mean, going through COVID, my primary career is motivational speaking. And so I got to be in front of groups to do that. Calendar got wiped out for a year. That was scary, but that was a time where I had the opportunity to start the podcast. And I mean, talking to individuals, it really just inspired me. Like, for instance, the very first episode, his name is Adam Gorlitsky. He fell asleep at the wheel and crashed. He woke up from a coma. He was paralyzed from the waist down. And, he chose to overcome that situation, that challenge. He ended up raising money to get an exoskeleton suit for himself. And now he's the Guinness World Record holder for fastest marathon in an exoskeleton suit. He did this in 36 hours. And so just to talk with individuals who have done incredible things, who have just wrestled through challenges, it's inspiring. And I want to continue that mission of just sharing that message of unstoppable. So I think my physical challenges are done, but that's my goal.
Well, what if you did one more physical challenge using your connection with The Rock? WWE.
I could do like a tag team.
Something in the ring.
Like I'm down to wrestle The Rock, but he's got to come down to my weight class. So that's a lot of weight for him, I think. So, but we'll see. Yes, sir.
How important would you say a mentor is, and who you choose to surround yourself with?
100%. It's absolutely important. For me, I've surrounded myself with individuals who I can learn from, who I want to be like, whether it was my high school coaches, college coaches, Chris, just these individuals who inspire me to be better. And I think that's the key thing, because there's always room for improvement in all facets of life. And you need to surround yourself with people you can learn from, that you can kind of reach up to and have them help build you up. And I think that's what it's about, always improving and not being satisfied with where you're at. Because like another thing I learned in athletics is like when you start getting comfortable, right? When you start getting complacent, that's when someone comes up and beats you. Someone comes up and takes the throne from you. So there's always room for improvement, always room to get better. And a big part of that is picking those people who can help you, who you can learn from to be better.
Your story is very emotional, very inspiring.
Thank you.
How many times did you go around telling your story and not, how many times did you tell it before you, I don't know if you cried before telling the story. Did you cry at all? Did you, and if you did cry, how many times did you, tell it before you stopped crying?
Honestly, there's still.
Not so much crying, but not have tears.
Honestly, for me, I'm not a huge crier, but there are moments still where like there's certain things that I'll as I'm sharing it just, for some reason, it'll just hit me at that moment, and like, especially when I talk about my mom, just going through things, that we did and just having her support me. Like I get choked up because of it, just mentioning her, it makes me emotional. But I've been blessed. I'd say before COVID, I was averaging about 45 to 50 speaking events per year, just traveling the country. And for me, like I said, there are moments where I get emotional, but for me, I really get emotional afterwards because I know my story. I've lived through it. I've been able to share it, but I just love being able to interact with people afterwards and then to hear how a certain part of my story touched them. That's what makes me emotional, because we all got the speed bumps, we all got those setbacks. And when they open up and share like what they're going through or how my story touched them, that's why I do what I do. That's why I'm so passionate about this career. And so that gets me emotional. But there are moments where my story, it's still, it'll come out of nowhere, but it'll still hit me. So.
So Brennan asks another question. How do you prepare yourself for the mental part of a match or even in life to be better?
So the mental part of the match, I just focus on winning the positions, like focus on my strategy. And really, I would tell myself, like, I don't care who I'm wrestling. I don't care what school they're from, what they're ranked. They can't beat me. They're not prepared for me. They don't know what I'm capable of. And in life, for me, I kind of approach it the same way. Like, I don't care what the challenges are. I'm going to do my best to not focus on those things. What we would say in wrestling is you focus on your strengths and you camouflage your weaknesses, right? You focus on what you're capable of, what you can do, you build on that. And yeah, there's going to be setbacks. There's going to be weaknesses, things that can hold you back. And obviously you can't completely ignore those things, but you do what you can to prevent those things from holding you back. Try to build up as much as you can and you just build on your strengths. And that's what I do. Sir.
Last question, how do you feel about the Raiders going to Las Vegas?
I was a little sad to see the Raiders leave Oakland, but I'm very happy at the same time because Vegas is like a 45-minute plane flight for me. So my family, we're huge Raiders fans. I don't know if you saw in the video, I got a Raiders tattoo. My mom's got one too. Brothers, we're big fans. The Raiders actually flew my family and I out for a Raiders game. I got to speak to the team beforehand, so we'll be there quite a bit. But we're Raiders they pull at our heartstrings. There's a lot of bad seasons there, but we're faithful fans. So. Oh.
All right, I got one more online one from J-Dub. This is actually pretty good. It says, what is the one food or snack that makes it the hardest to reach your physical goals?
Oh, man. The one food or snack that makes it the hardest to reach your physical goals?
Yeah, so I guess it's your biggest vice, that the food or snack that's going to get you out of shape.
Man, well, I know let's see. Well, I know I stayed away from Taco Bell. My coaches were always telling us, like, Taco Bell's the worst thing you can eat. And then advice for me, like I always, Chris was sharing with me one time, we were watching this wrestling documentary, and they're going through Subway, they're getting ready for a weight cut. They're going through Subway, getting small little sandwiches. And the guy, he asked him, like, do you want mayonnaise on your sandwich? And he's like, no mayonnaise. He's like, you might as well stick it on your stomach. And so Chris is like, dude, don't ever eat mayonnaise. And so for years, I've never eaten mayonnaise. I stay away from it. But that's just my personal thing, you know.
Thank you, Anthony.
Oh, thank you all very much. Thank you guys. Oh, thank you.
Yes.